All right, bang. Today is Tuesday, it's July 25th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Here with Chief, as always. Chief, how are you today?
I'm feeling great.
Good. Good to hear.
Yep. I'm pretty mad at people in this office, though.
Why?
Because Danny Conrad, basically. He always complains about, how hot it is, or how cold it is in here, rather. It's going to be like 1,000 degrees this week. If he even looks at the AC in the office, we're going to have to throw hands, I think.
The new guy, Nicky Smokes, he was complaining too. He's like, I'm under a vent. Like, I was getting smoked by the AC. I also,
Sit somewhere else, Nicky Smokes.
He did.
Good.
He did. I also somehow catch the blame for that every time.
Kate just walked in,
I've
too.
never touched the AC.
Yeah. No, I've turned it. I've dialed it down.
You've turned it down?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Because if it's at 73 degrees, that's too hot for an office. I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a shame that, we could get into it on tomorrow's episode, the free swim.
Yep.
But it's a shame Danny's such a pussy.
He is kind of a pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's just confirmed.
Yep.
All right, so last week's episode, we did an Oppenheimer.
Yep.
Did some of the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're kind of sticking with the same theme.
Yep.
We both saw the movie over the weekend.
As did producer Harry.
As did Harry. And I believe we're also going to get into a little bit of the Russia.
Yeah.
And
You said that very Trumpy right then.
Did I?
Yeah. Russia.
Unintended. We're getting into the Russia. Maybe that's just how I say
did
Russia.
It again, I feel like. Yeah.
That might just be how I say Russia.
That last one was more normal.
Was
the
it?
first two were
because you're making me think.
We're very Trumpian. Yeah.
You're making me think. And the Germany aspect of it, because obviously that's one thing the movie didn't get into.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I was very happy we did that podcast before I watched it.
Yeah, you need a little background?
Yes, I needed that big time. I was like, there were still some things where I was like, fuck, I wish I was a little more in the know.
And I think we'll get into that too.
Okay, good.
Yeah, today. Because that's one of my big gripes.
About?
The movie.
Like, you just didn't know what was going on at points?
No, I knew it was going on, but we'll get into it.
Okay, we'll get into it. Before we do that, I want to talk about RHOBACK activewear. You're wearing the hat. I got the performance hoodie right here.
Yeah.
You guys know you see that dog logo. You're in for a treat.
Mm-hmm. You're feeling good.
This is good stuff.
That that performance hoodie too. Like I said, it's about to be 1,000 degrees this week. You could get away with wearing that still.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like it's like a heat wicking cotton or something. Like it's very breathable.
That's how light it is. Yes.
Yeah.
It's great. They also got the performance polos. You'll be wearing those all summer. Obviously, we don't wear polos a ton, but if we do, we're wearing RHOBACK.
I'm golfing again this week, I think.
Are you?
I'll be wearing RHOBACK.
There you go. Get that 312 polo.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the best fit, best feel, just all around the best. The performance hoodies, like I just showed you, they're very comfortable. Best way to start your day is with a RHOBACK hoodie, no matter the season. They're very soft and make you want to wear them commando. And finally, RHOBACK's performance quarter zips are so soft, perfect for a night out on the town, an early morning walk, or a quick round on the course. They are incredibly versatile. The best part about wearing RHOBACK is when you see someone rocking the dog logo or those two stripes in the back, you just kind of give them a subtle nod because you know they get it. Mm-hmm. It's summer, so make sure you check them out at RHOBACK.com. Use code DOG on RHOBACK.com for 20% off all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all hoodies, joggers, and polos with code DOG. Act now because they cut it out after Friday.
That's okay. So it is almost August. I might just go ahead and use this and do my whole fall wardrobe. Get a few more a few more quarter zips, a couple more pairs of joggers, and just be good to go. Because fall football season, I can almost smell it in the air.
It's never a bad thing to be prepared.
Yep.
It's almost August. So yeah. All right then. Go check out RHOBACK. And all right, as far as this goes.
Mm-hmm. The movie. The review?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start or should I start?
Yeah. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Mm-hmm. As did I.
Yeah.
People are saying I didn't enjoy it. No, it was good.
You didn't like the angle they took.
Elements of it, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, at times, the weaving lanes from court to present would maybe, I could see it not being for everyone.
Okay. Yeah, that actually didn't bother me.
It really didn't bother me
Did you ever
either.
see Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk?
I have not actually.
Okay.
No.
So that one...
Similar?
Almost way more dramatic because he was telling 3 stories at once. And one story took place in basically a day, which was the guy, people on a boat. And then one took place over a course of a week, and then another was over like 3 days. So it was like it was like 3 interweaving stories, and it all kind of came together at the end at the same point. But it was a more dramatic effect of what we saw in Oppenheimer, and that didn't bother me either. And it was like, oh, he's doing it again. And I thought this one was actually easier to follow than Dunkirk.
Yeah. Okay. The only parts where I thought they were good, like I enjoyed them. I thought Robert Downey Jr. was great.
He was.
But there were parts of that where I was like having a little trouble. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I have no shame admitting when I'm you know,
which
a little
part
bit
did you have
underwater.
trouble with, I guess?
It's just, I guess the timeline of him, you know, at that facility meeting Einstein, you know, that whole thing. And then when it reverted back and once obviously it found out like he was trying to fuck him.
Yeah.
Then I was like, all right, I get what's going on here. But I guess at the beginning of their relationship was where like what started kind of confusing to me.
Well, and that was the thing too, which this is people are like, I said that element of the movie was like kind of too low stakes for me to spend, I don't know what it was, at least an hour on his approval, you know, through the hearing to be in the Eisenhower's cabinet, and then also Oppenheimer losing his security status. People are like, you don't think nuclear war, the stakes are high enough? I'm like, that's not what I said at all. Everybody fucking knows the stakes of nuclear war. Like, you'd have to be a fucking moron if you listened to what I said and concluded that I don't think nuclear war is high stakes. Like, you're just an idiot. But I don't think that, and like the part that I had trouble following was like they made they showed Lewis Strauss, like the Robert Downey Jr. character, having a few moments of like insecurity throughout the movie. Like when it's like, hey, do you want me to introduce you to Einstein? No need, I've known him forever. And he was like taken aback by that.
Yeah.
And then when he kind of rebuffed him on the job offer initially, and then Oppenheimer asked him, were you ever a physicist? Did you ever? And he's like, no, I didn't do that. And you could tell he was like a little insecure about not being an actual scientist, even though he was on the Atomic Energy Commission. Then I think there was one more moment, you know, where they had like it was like public, where Robert Downey Jr.'s character felt embarrassed by something that Oppenheimer said publicly. And like that was but like you never, at least to me, I never was like the reveal that he had been sitting on this like, you know, feud against Oppenheimer for years because he publicly embarrassed him with a comment. That was not, to me, set up very well. And then they tried. Go ahead.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
because I don't know, something about that early. They didn't set up Downey Jr.'s character well at all. I didn't think.
I don't think they should have even had his character in there. That's kind of my big takeaway, and that's what I mean when I said the stakes weren't very high. So Oppenheimer, you know, he was anti-nuclear proliferation, right? Like he wanted to curtail. He didn't want to do the hydrogen bomb. He didn't want to like get into this nuclear arms race. He was kind of like after the fact. He had, I don't know if you call it a change of heart, because after Germany surrendered, you didn't even really need to do the nuclear bomb. They still went ahead and did it anyways. There was like one small scene of debate where it was like, nope, like we're doing this. And then they did it because they were so close to the goal line anyways. But then you had like this moment where, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Where were we going with that?
You were talking about Oppenheimer.
Yeah, where he was
not wanting to be in the
right. So it's like when I say the stakes, okay, where he loses his security clearance, right? And it's like, okay, who cares? Like they had already shown that meeting with him and Truman, where Truman was like, get this crybaby out of here, and kind of was like, no one's going to be like, Oppenheimer dropped this bomb. They're going to say Truman dropped the bomb, which is true. So if Oppenheimer wasn't really able to impact nuclear policy from the inside, as was made clear by that scene with Truman, who the fuck cares if he's on the outside? Okay, so it's like either he's on the inside and he has no real sway, or if he's on the outside and he has no real sway, him losing his clearance doesn't matter. And same thing with Lewis Strauss. Like the Lewis Strauss thing, like he's not going to be on Eisenhower. He was going to be like Secretary of Commerce. who cares? Okay, so it's like if you had shown them as this was like a, you know, like a military industrial complex type of thing, like if you had laid that out and it was like, well, this is the stakes for the whole world, like now we're entering this Cold War era, and Oppenheimer is going to be able to stop that, which I don't think he could have anyway. So it was historically accurate, I would say, is what it seems. It's based on that book, American Prometheus. But it's not like that whole second half of the movie. I'm like, I don't care if this guy gets his clearance taken. I don't care if he's in the cabinet. You know, Strauss's character's in the cabinet, because whatever way it shakes out, it does not matter for the threat of nuclear war. Like that, once they did the Trinity test and dropped those bombs, we were on that path. And so that part was already done. So that was where I was like, the whole second half of the movie, it's like, I don't really care. Now, if you want to tell me it was a comment on commentary and an illustration of how McCarthyism was going at that time, that's fine. I can accept that. I still don't, again, still kind of low stakes. And then, and you could say it's even a kind of a wink at, or maybe a commentary on how things are politically today, where people get canceled all the time and they get shunned for different things, and their character is destroyed or misled, or they're called a communist when they're not, and they're called this when they're not. You know, like that. You could say that too, but again, like I didn't care enough, like because they didn't. I don't think they set it up.
So Truman, I want to go back to him.
Okay.
If that depiction was accurate,
I mean, it's, you could find the quotes about that.
Yeah. Then people are like, oh my God, like today's day and age, like we had so much class back. Like he was the most crass, like guy in the world in that movie, you know?
Yep.
So it's kind of almost like not much has changed.
No, you're trying to make him into like a modern day.
Basically.
Yeah. I think Truman was known as like outwardly more political, but behind closed doors it was like, you know,
he just let it rip.
He's just a good old boy from Missouri.
Okay,
you know? So
gotcha.
It's not like he's firing off tweets like some people, you know.
Yeah.
So
you don't think, because since Oppenheimer, it didn't matter since Truman said he's a crybaby and they don't need him anyways, you don't think if he had clearance mattered one way or the other?
No, because it felt like they were going down that road. What are you just going to stop like advancing?
Because he had already pissed off the president, so it's kind of like he didn't really care about him.
Not even that he had pissed him off, but it was just like, you know, what's the next thing? Like, we're just going to keep building them bigger, you know. And it's like we are on this path, and this is, you know, the kind of like that military industrial complex, and we're going down this road. And if he was on not, and like that was in that scene, that was Oppenheimer being like, Truman, like, we got to stop this. And Truman being like, shut the fuck up, basically is like, well, he doesn't matter to public policy. So even if Oppenheimer's on the inside and is able to be like, I don't think we should do this, he's not controlling the program. There's other physicists, as they showed a gazillion of them.
Yeah, but maybe he just wanted him to shut up and dribble.
Yeah,
right?
like
maybe,
publicly.
Yeah, like publicly, like, hey, shut up. Like, don't worry about the stakes of this. Don't worry about the court of public opinion.
You go do science shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And shut up. And
no,
that's
I think
your mode on the inside.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why they tried to tear down his character, and which they showed a good job. That is why they probably tried to tear it down. But at the same time, he eventually, it's like, aren't you just talking into a vacuum? You know, let's say they don't tear him down and they don't try to paint him as this communist and get his clearance taken away and all that. Well, you're still going to end up in the same result. Like that scene with Truman, to me, was just like, hey, you didn't drop the bomb, I did, and you're being a crybaby about these things. That to me was like, that was when he was on the inside. So post anything after that is Truman, they're on this path. Like, they're on a nuclear weapons militarization path, and there's nothing Oppenheimer or anyone else could have done to stop it. And if Oppenheimer really wanted to stop it, they could have just not gone forward with the Trinity test after Germany surrendered. Mm-hmm. So that to me is like, I would have rather, because they showed him, like, you know, the scene with the apple, right, where he had this crisis of conscience, he was going to like kill his fucking professor, poison him. And he had this like, oh my God, crisis of conscience, goes back, takes the app, you know, like, and stops it. And he has all these other like kind of things where he's staring at the ceiling at night, having these like things that he's wrestling with. And they didn't really do that about the Trinity test. Because remember that scene? He walked in, everybody's talking about, like, should we even do this? He's like, and he just was like, a quick, whoosh, we're done. I don't know if it's true or not, but I would have liked to see him wrestle with that.
Yeah.
And then my big problem with the movie is that I didn't care about any of the characters. And you could say it was all about Oppenheimer, which it was, but like when his girlfriend, the communist, who she's like an interesting person in general, like she was supposedly a lesbian, but conflicted about it, so still experimented with men, including Oppenheimer, and that's why she never like wanted to like be with Oppenheimer fully, was because she was more into women, and then she was like a for real communist, and so that was just like a that storyline, like when they show him when he's going through like the he's crying in like the woods in New Mexico, and his wife finds him. It's like, well, did you even really care about that woman? Because they didn't really show you caring that much. Like one scene where it's like him telling her like, hey, I got what's her face pregnant, and so I can't really be seeing you anymore. See,
I actually like that. I like that because that relationship was the biggest linchpin. Well, besides the community, his classrooms having, you know, what was it, the Spanish Royal Loyalist rally. That was like one of the biggest links of them thinking he's a communist. And I think it goes back to those days where like that's just like a little stuff they looked for and they just like freaked out over.
So that, okay, sure. I'm saying kind of the opposite. I wish they spent more time on that relationship.
And not more about the personal relationship, about like how she was mad and how, you know. Yeah, but I think that all goes into, I think they were showing Oppenheimer the guy more because when they pan to the, the closed hearing and Emily Blunt's behind him, his wife, and he's telling those details.
Yeah.
Like that kind of added more drama. So maybe that was the effect, to really show you this guy was also balancing nuclear weapons, you know, dropping an atomic bomb and like a personal, like, chaotic life.
I wanted more of the chaotic life. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I wanted more of that because that to me, like I wanted more of Oppenheimer, the person, and less of, I could have done, like, that's what I mean. Like if the last 45 minutes or whatever were all Lewis Strauss, you could have told that story with him having his hearing without Lewis Strauss being involved really at all. Like he's having the hearing, it's kind of McCarthyism, like whatever, take his clearance away. I don't give a shit about Lewis Strauss and his cabinet hearing. Tell me more about the relationship with Emily Blunt and tell me more about the relationship with Florence Pugh, because to me, those like would have humanized him even more and would have made a better story than the Lewis Strauss thing. Like the Lewis Strauss story to me was fucking boring. Like I'm sorry, like I don't care about it. It didn't change history really. Nothing would, you know. So it was just like, that's what I mean. Like I think that it would have been a more, like they showed as like a counter example the Casey Affleck's character, where he was like the guy who maybe have murdered Florence Pugh's character. They showed like one flash where he's like holding her down in the tub.
Yes.
Okay, like that would have been
Pash.
Yes, Pash. Yeah, but Casey Affleck to me, like the most emotional. Like we did a saddest movies draft. Kate's here where we did the Cry movie draft.
Yeah.
Like Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah.
That is to me like, I wanted more things where I'm like, I deeply care about these characters. And I deeply they had so many characters, but none of the characters really had any depth except for maybe Oppenheimer, but we didn't even see him on a personal side that much. So I would have liked to see more of that. That's all I'm saying. Oh, and then I do want to just say, I disavow Stephen Cheah's take. Stephen Cheah's take, brother.
What was it? I didn't watch
He
it.
was basically like, I thought this was going to be a war movie, and there was there was only one explosion. Like, dude, like, so then people were lumping me in with Stephen Cheah. I thought it was shot brilliantly. I did see, because him and RA were going back and forth, he said something about the acting was bad. That's insane.
That's crazy.
That's insane too.
I only had one issue with the acting.
Who?
And it after
Cillian Murphy.
No, he was great.
Joking, yeah.
After 10 minutes, but this is a personal problem. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to have a Matt Damon issue.
I said this to somebody recently.
And it's not even his fault. It's just he's so fucking Matt Damon to me that every time I see him, I'm just like, it's just there he is, Boston guy, Good Will Hunt. I don't know why. Like I had the same issue with Air.
Yep.
But he did settle in after like 10 minutes of the character.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to bother me the whole time, but as time went on and as he became more disgruntled, we'll call it, I thought it was better and like I settled in on the character. Besides that, I thought everyone was awesome. I thought the women were great. I thought Emily Blunt, and that was Florence Pugh, the girl, lady who killed herself.
Yep.
I thought she was fantastic.
I thought they were both really good. I didn't think there was a ton of depth to either of those characters, though.
Yeah, but but they were great.
Yeah,
but they were really good.
I'm the crazy wife. We're like that. Like they're like we're. Cillian Murphy shows up with his baby and was like, "You have to take my baby." I was just like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Like, tell me how you got from she had a bad night with the baby to I have to give my baby away to like friends because she can't do it. Yeah. Like that to me was just like you skipped probably a lot of things that I wish they would have spent more time exploring, like how their relationship really worked.
Yeah,
like
I could see that.
Yeah.
I thought Robert Downey Jr. was awesome.
So I thought he was awesome too, even though I hated his I hated his storyline. I thought he did a great job of acting it out, and I wonder if they had casted somebody less famous and less good, if they would have just been like, let's cut those scenes, because. But it's like, hey, this is Robert Downey Jr. Like we're not cutting Robert Downey Jr.'s scenes, but. Maybe not. I don't know. But
Josh Hartnett was good.
Where has he been?
I don't know. He was good though.
I feel like I haven't seen him in anything since Black Hawk Down. Like he's
been. Yeah, I think he had a semi-retiring for a while.
Okay.
Or just took a break or something.
I had a thought about him mid-movie too.
What?
You know how when we were talking about Indiana Jones recently, like who could pick up that franchise? Like it's hard to be like.
Should be him.
The badass heartthrob professor.
That's him.
He was hunky as fuck with those glasses and the haircut. Like he could be the new Indiana Jones. Yeah. Like that to me.
Actually, that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. Did you see it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
That's a problem.
Maybe I'll do a Barbie Jones.
A Barbie Jones, yeah. Jones and Arby?
Yeah, Jones and Arby. Yeah.
With Arby's.
Indy Arby.
Sneaking in Arby's.
Yeah.
You got to go see that. Because that movie is
running out. I'm running out of time.
You're running out of time. It came out almost a month ago.
Yep.
It's getting smoked at the box office.
I know.
As an Indiana Jones guy,
I want to support it.
Yeah, like
I want to support it.
Should plant your flag, or else they ain't gonna make those things ever again. It is getting crushed.
I know.
Crushed.
And like that's part of the reason I like. It's almost like. Now, I have always been in the room when I've had to put my dog down, but it's like you kind of don't want to be in the room when they put the dog down kind of thing, So that's where I've been kind of avoiding it. I'm sure I'll see it as like, maybe I'll do it like sometime this week, just kind of go alone, watch it, movie theater down the street from me. So
I want to go see it just for the sake of
Boys Day?
I'll go with you.
All right.
For sure.
All right.
I just want to enjoy the last, I don't know how much Ford's got left, and he's such a legend that I just want to enjoy it as much time as we have left.
I also have one other confession to make about where maybe some of my ill temper with this Oppenheimer, second half of Oppenheimer came from. Mm-hmm. So I saw it at Music Box Theater because they had 70 millimeter.
Okay, continue.
I love the Music Box Theater. I think it's cute, quaint. I've seen, I love going there in the holidays. It's like a great little date spot. That theater is not built for a 3-hour movie. Okay, it's tight quarters. It was hot. I felt like I was sitting on my balls the entire, like literally, like I couldn't get my balls to feel like comfortable. But like you can't stand up and like adjust yourself. So I was like trying to sneak little like tugs and like get my shorts, and I don't know. It was just like I was fucking miserable sitting there. And again, great theater, love the Music Box, hope it exists for another 100 years. But it's not a place where you should be seeing a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, I mean, I did Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
Legitimately yesterday. So I was in the theater for 6.5 hours.
Which one did you see first?
I saw Oppenheimer first, and I saw Barbie.
Yeah. And
I'm actually going on my mom's basement to talk about both, and I think we might talk a little Barbie on tomorrow's show.
Yep.
And I had a nice recliner. Mm-hmm. It was kind of lovely. So
yeah.
I don't
can't relate.
I was talking to someone who there was no AC for the 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing.
Oh, I was sweaty in there.
Your setting, it affects the movie. I'm a big proponent of that. Like you have to have an optimal theater. You have to have a good crowd. who's not talking, who's not being an asshole. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into enjoying a movie.
I agree. And like the Oppenheimer at the music box, like they have, they shoot it. They shot it on that. They made a big deal out of the 70 millimeter, right? So they did everything analog, which I'm not like a aficionado, but like it was like a good viewing experience just with, if you could isolate it with just your eyeballs and your ears.
Yeah.
The rest of my body, I don't think I've ever been more uncomfortable. Like a sweaty fucking mess. Like couldn't get like, again, it was literally like I was sitting on my balls.
Now you said that there was going to be a nuclear physicist afterwards.
I couldn't tell you because I sprinted out of the theater because I was so uncomfortable.
Doing a Q&A after, I was going to say that to you. I couldn't imagine like going through like that too much.
Well,
it's a cool perk.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed it, but I
would have stayed had I not been. So that was the other thing. So it's because it's such a small theater, or not necessarily like it seats a lot of people. It probably seats more than a normal movie theater actually. Mm-hmm. But the line, if you know that Southport neighborhood, the line went down all the way to Waveland on the outside, and then all the way almost over like into a block over into Lakewood.
Oh no shit.
To wait to get in. So the movie it was supposed to start at 8:45. I don't think they started until like 9:15.
Oh wow.
So 3 hours. Now it's after midnight. I've been sitting on my balls for 3 hours. You know me. I don't stay out past midnight very often.
Damn, I was down the street from you.
Where were you?
I was at Butcher's, Langs, and I was all about over there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Langs is a good spot.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Langs is one of my favorite people watching spots in Chicago.
Yeah, you should have came out. We could,
I mean, I live right there. You know where I live.
Had a couple beers. You
could have texted me.
Had someone fan off your balls in the Langs bathroom.
That was on Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have come out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're out, like could have used a little fan on my balls for sure.
I wouldn't have done it. We could have found someone to take care of it.
Can I tell you one other thing that I liked?
Call Downey to take care of it. What did you?
One thing that I liked that I didn't know about, that little JFK wrinkle at the end.
Oh yeah. Get into that a little bit, because
so that was like Louis Strauss. Like he was up for to be Eisenhower's Secretary of Commerce, and he they start that thing off like, yeah, you're a shoo-in, like blah blah blah, and then as it goes, it's like, oh, like do we have the votes? And he's getting questioned pretty hard, and then I think this was 1952, 56, something like that, and they're like, like it's this. Junior senator from Massachusetts trying to make a name for himself, voted against you. But JFK was like the anti, nuclear war kind of president. Like he was really trying to have like a nuclear arms agreement with Khrushchev. So it was just interesting that he was like the deciding vote that kept Louis Strauss from getting that cabinet position, that he voted against him. So like that to me, I was like, score another one for my guy. Yeah.
For Johnny.
Yeah. The other guy who was, because you said R.A. was going after Stephen Cheah quite a bit. R.A. wrote a blog. I skimmed it, okay, because it was very long, and I'm sure like the parts that I read were very well written. But his title was Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is an engrossing masterpiece that reminds us we're only one fucking lunatic away from a nuclear apocalypse. Hey, R.A., no fucking shit, man. Like, you have to be reminded of that. Like, that's what's been talked about for the last 60 years. And especially, like, when Trump was president, that was what people were like, oh, you got this guy with his finger on the button. Like, like, we're all going to die. You just picture, like, that woman who was screaming no on the street that became like a meme.
Yeah.
Like that, or did you ever see the woman on the airplane? She's like, you put that man's finger on the button, where she got kicked off the plane to like some kid who had like a Trump shirt on.
Oh, no.
You ever seen that one?
No.
So she's like a 60-year-old, looks like she's from New Hampshire kind of lady. And, so it was like, yeah, Trump, like that was always the thing. And it was like, that's why, they said Saddam had, centrifuges, was developing nuclear weapons, and then the Gaddafi in Libya, like he had a nuclear program. Like you can't let these people, and then this Ukraine thing, like, oh, they're saying Putin might have cancer, he might have this, and he's getting desperate, he might just start a nuclear war. Like we've always known that is the case, and if anybody knows about the Cuban Missile Crisis or anything like that, everybody knows you're only one fucking lunatic away from ending the world. So I don't know, like, if that was like why people were saying it was like this important film that they had to be reminded of that, then that's kind of on you. And then also people being like, people are mad that I was, quote, spoiling the movie. Like, this happened 80 fucking years ago. Like, this happened 80 years ago. I didn't spoil shit.
I think here's my thing too, and you acknowledge it was good, you liked it.
Yeah.
So I think the cons you had are fair. Where like I liked the movie, but I wish it went in this direction. I wish it focused more on this rather than this. Mm-hmm. You didn't pan it as far as like the acting was bad.
No,
I think
if Cillian Murphy gets an Oscar, great. If Christopher Nolan gets a Best Director, great.
Yeah.
People are saying I think it was Variety and a few other places were calling it the best and most important movie of the century. And I'm just like, that doesn't meet that standard for me.
Interesting, because I know that a lot of people were hyped up for this, probably the movie of the year for a lot of people. I'm way more excited for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Me too.
Like, yeah, I think like
that's
Scorsese,
October, I think.
DiCaprio, like that's kind of more my thing.
Yep, me too.
So I'm more excited for that. Granted, I really enjoyed this.
I did too. And I wasn't like that, the Stephen Cheah thing. Like, I wasn't expecting like a post-apocalyptic, like showing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like all these explosions. And like, I didn't even care about that. Like, my favorite show ever is Mad Men. All that is sitting and chatting.
And you know what people are going to say is that it would be better as a series. Which probably would, but guess what? You ain't getting Christopher Nolan for a series.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's only
doing... You might not get any of them for a series, you know?
No, you're not getting that cast. You're not getting... Well, maybe now. A lot of TV stars do TV now.
But
a lot of movie stars do TV now.
Yeah, but like, I feel like the last time you had like an A-list person was True Detective. When it was not Cillian, McConaughey and...
No, there's more than that.
For a series? Like an AA list?
Yeah.
This cast had everybody though.
For sure. But none are coming to mind right now.
Yeah.
But it's definitely becoming more prevalent.
It is. But it's just, to me,
now to get this many people for something like a mini series, I think they could pull it off. A full series, maybe not.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I just didn't think it was the best movie of all time. And I'm interested to see how it compares to
Killers of the Flower Moon.
I was going to say Empire, but yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, so we'll see. Go check it out, obviously, if you haven't. If you did, hopefully you enjoyed this review, so to speak.
Yep.
Because last week, a lot of people seemed to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple things, though.
Yeah.
So you mentioned last week that you thought there was a chance that he was a leak to
Well,
Russia.
I mean, and that was like another storyline I thought they could have spent more time on. That Klaus Fuchs, like, he served prison time in the UK for being a spy for the Soviets. And they showed it. I don't even know if he had a line in the movie, the Klaus Fuchs character. They showed him like, oh, here's Klaus Fuchs. He was the guy who was the leak that allowed the Soviets to get the bomb and get the bomb faster than anybody thought. Like that, and he was, Oppenheimer brought him in. So he was, and there are, I don't know if Oppenheimer was an out and out communist or a spy. I don't know. I don't know. Klaus Fuchs absolutely was. Okay. Like he served 9 years in jail in Great Britain. He was a British citizen. And then he was sentenced, I think, to 16. But there's a law in Britain, you can get out in good behavior. And the only reason he wasn't put to death for that is because his argument was, we had to beat the Nazis. And I thought, my conscience got to me, they have great physicists too. I thought if I was sharing information with them, that they could help us end the war more quickly. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, all right, you're going to get 16 years for this. And he served 9 and went over to East Germany and continued to work. But he served 9 years. He was convicted and he pled guilty. And so there's no hemming and hawing or argument over the facts. He pled guilty to espionage about the Manhattan Project.
There was something else too that we talked about, and I forget. It's blanking on my mind.
There was
now.
The Merkulov papers or something like that, with the letters where they and Putin alluded to sources, American sources in the Manhattan Project, because he was a former KGB agent, but he's we still protect our assets even after they're dead. So there are people who are speculating based on comments from Putin and these other letters, which the U.S. has worked to like kind of not maybe like discredit, okay, or like cast doubt upon the validity of the letters, but they kind of they link Oppenheimer more closely to the Soviet spy network than certainly this American Prometheus or the movie did. So, but I don't know. I wasn't there, but I think, and this is one side of the story. This movie, he used that phrase like I was a fellow traveler, which maybe he was just like a. He was definitely anti-fascist. That's why he was on the loyalist side with Spain, because Franco was an out-and-out fascist, and he thought that the loyalists were more democracy, and he was pissed off about like that position of neutrality that the West took, because then Hitler and Mussolini could just give Franco arms, and I think Hitler bombed places in Spain too. So it was just like he had like these causes, and he might have just been like left of FDR as a Democrat. Like he could have just been that. I can't pretend to be like an expert on Oppenheimer's core beliefs. Yeah. I think there's information that shows both things both ways. But like I thought that was one little nugget from the movie that I liked, where it was like, at the end of the day, he was really just about the theories and the science, right? Because he had the character, Josh Hartnett's character was like, I can't even tell you what I'm working on because you're doing all these shitty, stupid political things. Like, cut it out. So he's like, all right, I'll cut it out. So he's like, what do you actually care about? Do you care about all this political stuff that you're doing, or you care about the biggest project ever? I'm going with the project. Fuck all that shit. Yeah. So I thought that was like a telling scene, that at the end of the day, the only thing he really, really, truly cared about was the science.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. Like, I could have been a little more clear on the settings as well. Mm-hmm. I grew up here, so I knew my whole life that University of Chicago had something to do with the atomic bomb. Yep. So I know I'm an idiot too. Like, maybe I missed this and that.
Yeah,
but I was a little
Enrico Fermi lab out by White Sox Dave.
Yeah, it was a little confusing.
Yeah. You know they had a lab underneath the football field.
I knew that the atomic bomb shit went down at UFC. Yeah. But I didn't know to what extent. Yeah. So. All right, then. Harry, you got anything that we didn't touch on that you want to touch on?
Yeah, I read that, the black and white, apparently when it's, filmed in black and white, that's, when it's third person, and then when it's colored, it's first person, and it's, all about subjective, objective.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. That is interesting.
That's a little film school guy right there.
Yeah. There you go.
And then I'm glad that you said that, Chief, about Casey Affleck's character killing Florence Pugh, because, I saw a hand in that shot.
Yeah, I guessed that. That's what I assumed.
I did see the hand. There was a leather hand, and I looked around at my friends. I was like, did anyone else see that? That was not a suicide. She's setting the pillows up.
I think they left it somewhat ambiguous. It could have been a murder. It could have been suicide. It could have been either one.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was, but that answered my question.
And again, I don't know if that was what I assumed.
That it was Pash.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I don't know. But overall, no CGI.
It's kind of cool.
I just fucking love that people like Nolan are still doing it to this level.
Yeah.
It's just it's so refreshing.
But that was so I didn't see it in IMAX. I saw it in 70 millimeter. But like I said, it was at
I just saw it in Dolby. So
okay, so we probably had a similar. Well, did you read your 70 millimeter or no?
I don't know if Dolby's 70 millimeter. I don't believe it is, to be honest.
But everyone was making such a big deal about the IMAX, IMAX 70 millimeter. It's gonna I read an article. It was this movie was gonna save Hollywood, and Nolan did everything perfectly. The explosion was what, 2 minutes of a 3-hour movie? Do you need that?
No, yeah, I don't that's not even the part I was talking about. Yeah. I was just saying that the lengths of detail and how
it's cool.
It was just good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, and it is it looked more like a movie that. How they used to in a way, which is nice.
That's my point. Because they give him free reign, do your thing. No one's gonna get in your way.
Yep.
And he's just so dedicated and so meticulous that.
Shout out to Paramount for letting him do his thing.
For real.
Yeah.
For real. So yeah, there you go. Go see it. Let us know what you think on Twitter. And yeah, that's really all I got.
Okay. You want to end it there? Or do you want to do the other stuff?
What do you think?
How long have we been going?
40 minutes, 30 minutes.
You want to do another 10? I mean, it's up to you. I don't.
What
I don't
else?
care.
So we're talking about the German and the
Yeah, we
Russia
were like
stuff?
the fall. No pun intended, but the fallout after.
Yeah, we could get into it.
Okay,
a little bit.
So, I think one of the main questions that people always ask is there was a third bomb that they didn't drop. So Truman had even though he called Oppenheimer a crybaby, they never dropped the third bomb, and then he was like, "Hey, I'm in charge. Like the president alone has the authority to greenlight a nuclear weapon." So they had a third one. There were people in the military because it took Japan 6 more days to announce their surrender. So from the 9th, and they didn't surrender until the 15th, and there was a third bomb ready to go. And then Truman said, no, we're not going to do that yet. And then, so that was one thing. Another thing, people are always like, why didn't they bomb Tokyo? There was nothing left of Tokyo. So there was a bombing raid on March 10th of 1945, so 5 months earlier, that had more casualties and more destruction than Hiroshima and Nagasaki just from conventional firebombing. So they had been doing hey, we're going to bomb that industrial plant. We're going to bomb that weapons place. We're going to bomb this military facility. And they weren't really damaging Japan so much, I guess. They weren't they were questioning whether Japan would ever surrender that way. So they're like, let's just fucking bomb everything. And they just, Tokyo, if you pull up post Tokyo air raid pictures, the city is there's nothing there. So they killed over 100,000 people. There was 1 million people homeless, and they had 270,000 buildings were destroyed in a night by just normal bombers of the day. So no nukes, just bomb the fucking shit out of them. So when they were talking about
U.S. specifically,
U.S., it was all U.S.
Okay.
So when they were talking about, where do we drop these bombs? They didn't. It's not like they passed on Tokyo because it's their capital, it's a population hub. We don't want to kill all these people. It's we already killed all the people there. So it's find all these other people, and then it was how did the Cold War after that really get started? And we talked about the Fuchs thing a little bit. Stalin was reportedly furious because now the things are winding down. We've been on the same side, but everybody kind of knows we might have to have another war. We should do a podcast on Patton sometime because Patton, there was a conspiracy theory that he was killed because in Europe, and they show this in the movie Patton, he's give me 40 days or whatever the number was. He's I'll start a war with Russia and make it look like it was their fault because he's we have to go back. We're not done. These guys are fucking evil, which they were. And so Patton one was we got all our forces here. Let's just keep this thing going. And we'll just knock out the Soviets while we're at it. And then everything will be the only superpower and everything will be fine. So, but Stalin, Churchill, and Truman had, they met on the 24th, and Truman was like, oh yeah, by the way, we have a new weapon, and it's unprecedented levels of destruction. And Stalin's like, all right, cool, whatever. Didn't say it was the nuke. Stalin did know because he had Fuchs and people telling him for I think Fuchs was a spy for 2 years on the Manhattan Project, telling him that they're working on the atomic bomb. But Truman didn't say but didn't know at that time on July 24th that they had done it, had completed it, and he definitely didn't say we're going to use it on Japan. So they met on the 24th of July. The first bombing was August 6th. So it was 2 weeks late, 2 weeks after their meeting or so, they're using the atomic bomb for the first time. So Stalin was furious about that, and he went to his physicists, be hey, you guys better get this thing going right away. And and then they had China became communist and officially post World War II, and then the Korean War started. And this goes back to the thing with RA, where you heard the name Douglas MacArthur. He was a general in the Pacific during World War II.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Well, in 1949 and 1950, the Korean War starts. And it's almost kind of reverse of what it is now. There's a great podcast called Blowback where season 3 they did was on the Korean War. Well, all the industry and all the technology was actually in North Korea back then, and South Korea was really just all they did was agriculture, just grew rice. And so North Korea made all these advancements. They're going to take over South Korea. That's when the UN, but it was really 90% United States got involved, and they tried to push people back. And MacArthur was like, we got to nuke these guys because they're, China's helping them, Russia's helping them. And like, he would publicly be like, Truman's not trying to win this war. Like, we got to get these people to surrender unconditionally. Truman was fine with like the ceasefire that was going to be on that 38th parallel, which is where it currently still is. And MacArthur would publicly disagree with him. And MacArthur was arguing that he should have the authority to use nukes himself. And Truman was like, absolutely fucking not. So that was like, hey, we're only one madman away from nuclear war. It was kind of Douglas fucking MacArthur. Yeah. Okay, so Truman eventually fired him and Truman was going to use there at that time. We had a monopoly on nukes, so Truman sent nukes to Japan, in Okinawa, and also sent nukes and B-29s, which would carry them to the British Isles, basically being like, hey, Russia, you guys better cut the fucking shit. Start pulling back. Don't help them as much because this is a war about Korea, okay? And tried to intimidate them, and that was Stalin's line. And that was another big reason that wasn't talked about in the movie is, people always say like it was going to cost us 1 million troops to invade Japan. We better just bomb them. It really wasn't about that. It was more about we don't want Russia, the Soviet Union, to invade Japan, and then we got to split up Japan the way we have to split up Germany, okay? That the United States, so Stalin and Russia had a plan to invade Hokkaido, which is the north of Japan, in August. So that was kind of the rush to get Japan to surrender. So the Soviets don't have any claim to any of the islands of Japan or any part of that country. It's just going to be us post-construction. So we need them to end the war now. So, because if we have to invade, yes, we'll lose a bunch of troops, but yes, we'll lose territory, and it'll be this clusterfuck in Japan divvying it up and battling for influence with the Russians, which they didn't want. So it's like, we get them to surrender before Russia gets into Japan, then it's ours. And that's another motivation. And Stalin had a quote supposedly that was like, they're killing the Japanese and they're trying to intimidate us. And that's why they used the nuclear war. And it kind of worked. And then that was really like the start of the Cold War, because then you had like the Rosenberg thing we talked about, and Klaus Fuchs gave them the bomb. They had their first nuke, I think it was 1951, they did their first real test. And then by 53 that they were doing aerial bomb. Like they did an aerial test, and it was like, okay, we're on an even playing field now. So now from that point on, it was just a race. And that, to me, like that moment in time was like, you talk about like the end of the world, like that. They got pretty close in the 50s, and then also at the Cuban Missile Crisis about what to do. And it was really kind of our guys. Like, I can't imagine if Douglas MacArthur was just like, yeah, fucking nuke the Chinese. Like, you got to get them out of here. Like, get them out of Korea. We got to nuke them. Like, insanity. Because then it would just becomes like the norm. No nukes have been dropped since the Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah. That goes back to what we talked about last week, where it's like, was it a good thing?
Yeah.
In the end, obviously, it's fucking weird to say that.
Well,
so many people died, but
right. But I think you could make an argument where it's like, if you never dropped a nuke and there wasn't that deterrent, would you be more likely to enter into global scale wars?
Or maybe that country doesn't have, or maybe that country doesn't have a governor like Truman did and stop it too.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is fine.
We just keep let him go. Yeah. So that would have been crazy. That would have been fucking crazy if we were just like nuking people. And then it was like, if you nuke Korea, you're probably going to go ahead. And the reason they moved in British Isles is basically to to say like, hey, we'll nuke Moscow too. And so it really was. And then the Cuban Missile Crisis too. Like that was, you had all the same type of people. They have that guy who was head of the Air Force, Curtis LeMay. And they called him Curtis All the Way LeMay, because he was another guy who was in Korea who was like doing test runs. Like, we're going to fly the B-29s over these areas where we want to nuke just in case we get the green light. But like, he was advocating for using nukes too, and he wanted to bomb the shit out of Cuba. Like, he was in the room for that. So there was like a lot of like these, the military guys. It's like what's that expression? If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I think there was like a lot of that going on. That they're like, well, we got these nukes. Like, we're just like money burning a hole in your pocket. You just want to fucking use them. So. But thank God, Truman and others intervened.
Oh, that was what I was going to say. They didn't make it seem like Oppenheimer wanted to drop it at all. When I know we talked last week and you're like, there was a part to him, like people thought he was kind of mad where he's like, oh, he wanted to see his weapon in action.
Yeah.
That was not portrayed at all. It
You didn't
seemed
think
like,
so?
I don't think so. It
Oh,
seemed,
so I think it was.
really? I thought it was like Oppenheimer. Like he wanted to see the test.
Yes, but once you have the test, like the time to shut down the program was before the test, and that's when his staff was like arguing with him, because once you make it and test it.
Yeah, but if you test it, then it's like you could also just become a threat.
But but like who would have seen it? You know,
They should have filmed it.
I think they did film
Did
it.
they?
Yeah, but at the same time, do you think like, hey, like look at this thing we blew up in New Mexico, versus look at the destruction we did to these two major cities in Japan?
It's a lot different for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I see. It felt to me like that was like there's like that old line. I can't remember who said it, but it was like the line between good and evil just runs. It's not like left right. It runs down your own heart. Mm-hmm. And I think Oppenheimer, it felt like they were so close to doing this thing that he had been chasing and this thing that he had theorized, this nuclear bomb, that he wanted to see it. That's what I got. At least that's how I interpreted that moment, where he had the staff being like, "Well, you don't even Germany surrendered. Like we can just stop this before we have it." And he was like, "Nope. Like we've already spent fucking $3 billion in many years on this thing. We're going forward."
Also, I'd like to note, I'm too old for this show, but I know who the guy is. But how about Josh Peck being the one who hits the button? That was.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't recognize that.
He was. I don't know.
My whole theater went crazy.
Yes. Oh, really?
Like his
Who
one
is he,
line.
Harry?
He's from Drake and Josh, his old Nickelodeon TV show.
Okay.
Yeah.
When he first came on screen, when he was like recruiting people, and his only line was "Holy shit," you know, like when he's like breaking the news to
Yeah,
that
I
they're
know
building
it.
a bomb. My theater like broke out into like applause. I thought like you would have thought like something huge happened.
Yeah, I know him from Snow Day. You ever seen Snow Day? No.
No.
Hey, he was Robe in Snow Day.
No, I never saw that either.
Really great kids. Like I loved it as a kid.
Okay.
Probably not a good movie, but I loved it as a kid. But that's where I know him from. I aged out of Drake and Josh. I never got into that. But like maybe that's the only casting was like a little ridiculous. With all due respect to Josh Peck. He didn't do a bad job, but like it was like Josh Peck's the guy who drops the nuke.
Do you think Cillian Murphy becomes like a true leading man now, because this is his first real major Hollywood production like that?
Really?
He did Peaky Blinders, and he had all like I feel like the only other movies he's been in. He was in The Wind That Shakes the Barley, which nobody knows, but it's an awesome movie about the Irish Revolution. I love that movie, and he's in that, and he's the lead character in that. But every other movie he's been in that's a major motion picture, I feel like has been a Christopher Nolan.
He was great in Batman Begins.
Christopher Nolan.
It actually wasn't Nolan.
It wasn't?
No, Nolan did the other. Oh, it was. Sorry, my apologies.
I thought it was. Yeah.
For some reason, well, that makes sense. I was looking at like, what's your favorite Nolan film? And they only had Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. I was like, huh, that's weird. But they probably just didn't use it on the graphic. I just looked it up. He wasn't.
I think he did another Nolan movie too.
Inception.
Yep. Dunkirk. He did Dunkirk too.
Oh, he was in A Quiet Place too. He's
in A Quiet Place?
Yeah, part 2. He had a very big role in that. He was the co-lead with Emily Blunt.
I thought John Krasinski was the co-lead.
That was Quiet Place 1.
Oh, I don't know if
Then John Krasinski gets.
I saw A Quiet Place.
Spoiler alert.
So I did like a.
He gets smoked
when A Quiet Place 2 came out. I watched A Quiet Place 1 at like 10 in the morning, and then went to the theater for like a matinee for Quiet Place 2. Yeah. And I guess I just don't remember it.
How do you not remember? He was at the baseball scene, and like basically like his whole Emily Blunt's like whole life.
Maybe I fell asleep or something. I don't know.
Post John Krasinski is with Cillian Murphy.
I mean, I saw that movie in the theater. Yeah. I don't remember anything about it, but I know I saw it in the theater. It just came out like during COVID.
Like the parking garage and shit. Nope. I don't know. All right, well,
I might have genuinely fallen asleep.
Probably.
Yeah,
sounds like it. All right then. I enjoyed this conversation, by the way.
So did I.
This was fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys did too. We'll talk tomorrow. Like I said, I did both. Bader's coming in tomorrow. He's going to sit on the free swim with us.
He's got to. Are you going to go see a show?
When is it?
I think it's August 1st and 2nd.
I'm going to try.
Yeah, I am too.
Oh, I'm gonna be out of town.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Am I out with you? Or you out of town?
No,
on your
I'm
own?
out of town. My
Okay.
family. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, wait, were we doing something?
I get it.
Yeah. So I'm that's at Zania's. I'm gonna go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, go check. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about tomorrow's free swim, but like he was like, oh, dude, I didn't see it yet. And I was like, made him think that like it's going to be a big part of the show tomorrow. Like, so he's like, dude, I saw it at 9:30 a.m. today. So I kind of love that I just forced him to see it. And we'll probably talk about Barbie for like, I don't know, 5 minutes tomorrow. Maybe more. Who knows? We'll see how the conversation goes. But I am doing My Mom's Basement with Clem and Robbie, and that's going to be a full about both. I hope it's more about the experience because that was wild to be at a theater that long.
I remember when I was a kid, my mom took us to see a double feature that was Homeward Bound and Aladdin back to back. I was thoroughly engrossed in both of them. But those are classic films.
Yeah, I forgot what I did. Oh, I did when Cascade, I believe it was called that. It was on North Avenue. It was the drive-in movie theater. Those are always double features.
Yeah.
I think it had Lilo and Stitch and Mr. Deeds.
Cascade was like out by me, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. That you went all the way out there for a drive-in?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the same drive-in?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
near
okay.
Edison Ice Arena.
Yeah, there's just
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
there's not a ton of
Thank you for that geographical reference that I would understand, Harry. Addison
it
Ice
in your
Arena.
terms.
That rink fucking sucked too, Harry.
I can't believe that they closed it. They closed it during COVID, but
That seems like that would be the time to keep it open.
that was definitely the time to keep it open. I believe it's just sitting vacant. Like they thought they were going to get like an Amazon facility, and they didn't. I could be talking out of my ass. But
Do you want to invest in driving?
I would love to. I love driving. Like
Yeah,
that's
who
such a
doesn't?
cool experience. I was bummed when it closed.
All right, well, let's see if we can. Yeah, I bet you could do it cool now too. Like everybody hooks into Bluetooth through their speakers of their car, as opposed to like just having it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think they did do that.
Oh,
Well, maybe not.
Probably not.
Totally though.
Yeah.
All right then. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back tomorrow, and yeah, I'll see you then.